Hello and welcome to the start of my 28mm Bush War series. So within this series, we're going to be looking at how to paint Rhodesians. We're going to be looking at how I go about painting the Zanlu and Zapu forces, as well as touching on the Portuguese in Mozambique. So yeah, strap yourselves in. It's going to be a lengthy series, hopefully maybe 5 or 6 videos. Really depends how far I can stretch this out, maybe more, maybe less. It all depends on how it's received. But these figures are absolutely beautiful, guys. These are the 28mm miniatures from Eureka Miniatures, and they are absolutely lovely. The figures are sculpted perfectly. That is a huge credit to the sculptor that made these videos, and I absolutely love this range. Their whole modern range, to be completely fair, at Eureka is absolutely lovely, and I believe they're sculpted by the same gentleman. So well worth investing in if you want to look at them or potentially get some just as a little sample, or just get a pack or something. Definitely worth doing. But these Rhodesian light infantry have been on my radar for years, and they have not disappointed. They are absolutely lovely, and I think some of you guys that potentially haven't been into the Bush War series, or you just know a little bit about it, but you're going to see these figures and you're going to be going, boy, I want to grab some of these, because my god, did I do that. But enough of me going absolutely mental over how great these figures are and rating them as highly as I do. Let's get into where you can get these miniatures and how I paint these fantastic figures. Now, if you'd like to grab yourself some of these miniatures, you can find them at Eureka Miniatures website. Obviously, they're under 28mm. They're in the modern category, and then within there, you've got the African Wars. So within the African Wars, you're going to get the likes of the Rhodesians, all of the different types of Rhodesian, the Rhodesian African Rifles, Rhodesian Light Infantry, as well as the Zanlu and Zapu forces. And Nick is a fantastic supporter of the channel, so if you're interested in all this, please do help him out. Now, with all of that in mind, we're going to prime our figure in Tamiya Surface Primer Light Grey, and I'm going to start off by painting this particular miniature, which is the Rhodesian Light Infantryman, in khaki. So that's any part of the uniform that's got the camouflage pattern on it. So we're going with this. It's very reminiscent of the Denison smocks. So I'm going to be going with pretty much the exact same technique as what I've done in the past. It's just a bit more broken up a little bit in terms of the greens and the browns. Then for the boots, we're going to be painting German camo medium brown. I absolutely love these figures. I've been eyeing these up for probably about 10 years, and it's only been in recent times actually committed to painting them or even getting them, just because I wanted to do them justice. And they are just lovely figures, and the Bush Wars is a particular thing that is of extreme interest to me. It's just such a crazy sort of period of history. Then for the webbing, I go with US Olive Drab. Now, I have seen with the Rhodesian forces, they were forced with sort of embargoes to the country, etc., to just make do with whatever they could do. And I've noticed that some of the webbing was also in like a khaki colour. So if you want to paint some webbing in khaki, I used khaki grey for a couple of my other figures, just to change it up a little bit to show the desperation and the lack of equipment that they were getting their hands on. Then for their FN fouls, I'm going to be painting them in Middlestone. They were given what was called baby poo camouflage, I believe, something along those lines anyway. So it was like a yellow and a green with the camouflage scheme. So we're going to be looking at that in more detail later on. Then for those boots, just to finish them off, I'm going to be painting the soles of those boots in black grey. You don't have to really worry about this. You could paint it all in brown, especially if you're going to heavily weather his footwear to show that he's in those like dry places, but it's up to you. Black grey just only takes a couple of minutes. Now we want to go ahead and hit those green camo patterns with refractive green. You could use a brighter green if you wanted to, but I think that's a pretty good match. And now you want to just let your your paintbrush do the work. So I'm using the very tip of my paintbrush to make all those nice little lines. You can see they're meant to be like leaves and stuff, something you'd see in the African bush, and just making some big blobs with nice little sharp straight bits coming off it. And again, the paintbrush tip is doing all the work for me. And then I'm copying that exact same principle with saddle brown, and I'm going to be overlapping the green with that saddle brown and just intertwining the two, as you can see in this camouflage pattern. Again, very, very similar to that Denison Smock. So if you've seen some of my airborne guides for the British Airborne in the Second World War, then you would know that this is pretty much my go-to. The paints are identical to that, so it's been relatively easy to actually paint this Rhodesian camouflage. For the tops of the water bottles, I'm going to be painting them in grey-green, and I've also painted the telephone wire in grey-green, or the radio wire in grey-green, and I painted the actual radio in US Star Green, but I'm not going to show you that here because that's just, yeah, not part of the actual rest of the models. Now I'm going to be giving my model a wash of normal oil and technical medium at a 1:1 ratio. So for those unfamiliar with this mix, it is a black wash that has been thinned down with their thinners, so Citadel or Warhammer thinners, at a 1:1 ratio, maybe just a little bit more normal oil than technical medium, so maybe not as quite 1:1, but roughly about 1:1, and that's just going to give you a nice black wash, but it's not going to be too dark, and if it pulls in certain areas, it's not going to be just a black blob. It's going to, yeah, do the job nicely. And once that wash is dry, it takes about an hour, you can then go ahead and hit the uniform with that khaki again. So you can see I'm literally just going over the blobs of khaki that I can make out, and it's a really good opportunity just to break up some of those camo areas. So if you've made a blob of camouflage you think just looks a bit too blob-like and not like a bit of bush, then yeah, this is a good opportunity to clean up, as well as making little parts of the uniform stand out where maybe the camouflage has gone over the top of it. And now the process is identical to what we've just seen. We're going to hit that refractive green again for those green areas of the camouflage pattern, and yeah, this is all repetitive work, but it's just making that camo just pop a little bit more, and yeah, it really does make a huge difference. So it is something you want to spend just 5 minutes doing, because it really is a very quick technique. And as you can see, it's the same with that saddle brown, but there is a subtle change that I'm going to do to this, to something I haven't done on my British Airborne, which we'll see in just a moment. But I'm just filling in those bits of brown, and you can already see that that camouflage scheme is already starting to pop in that very small area that I've done. And if you haven't been keeping up with my Instagram and Facebook, I've been posting loads of Bush War stuff, and I really would recommend you going and checking that out if you want to keep up to date with all that. Now I'm using khaki again, and I'm adding in just a few little lines within the actual camouflage pattern, and that is going to break it up, as you can see in the actual tunic that's on the screen now. And you should have something that looks something like this, at least anyway. So it's got a few little lines breaking it up within it, and it's just broken up nicely, and I think that looks pretty good. For 28mm, it's perfect. Now I did mention at the start that some of the shorts weren't all in camouflage colour. I'm going to go and paint them with German Field Grey World War II, and then I'm going to layer them. This is what I'm doing now. It's already had its wash, it's being layered with that German Field Grey World War II. You could use US Olive Drab, but that's just going to blend in with the webbing on this particular guy, and that's just not going to look good. So let's go with a bit more of a darker grey green, like that German World War II green. And then to highlight that, I'm going to use German Field Grey and grey green at a 2:1 ratio. Sorry about some of the camera work. It's, my big old thumb is making it go out of focus, but you can see the brightness of that highlight now is really making it really making those shorts stand out a bit better. And then with that done, we can now go ahead and hit the webbing with that US Olive Drab. And you can see that US Olive Drab is obviously quite a bit darker, but also a bit of a different shade of green compared to that grey green that we just, that German World War II colour that we've just used. So once we've got that first layer down, we can then go ahead and hit it with a second layer. So we're not putting this as a final highlight. This is German Camo Beige and US Olive Drab. So 2 parts US Olive Drabs and 1 part of that beige colour. You can see that there's lots of detail in that webbing for all of those ammunition pouches he's got there. He's carrying 2 water bottles. So these guys are out in the bush for a while if they need that much water. Yeah, just look absolutely badass. These sculpts are just lovely. Honestly, they're probably some of the best 28mm sculpts I've had the pleasure of painting, and that is, testament to the sculptor. And then US olive drab and German camo beige at a 1:1 to finish off our highlight now. And this is just adding in lots of little details on the raised surfaces. So on the very outer edge of those ammunition pouches, just on the outer edge of the strap for that webbing, you get the gist. And just look at that webbing, it's really starting to pop. This figure is just absolutely lovely. I'm just going to keep saying it because I love these Bush Wars figures. Now I'm going to give the rifle a go with middle stone. And this is really important because this is only going to be our highlight now. So I'm just building up all the details back in and leaving all that base colour has been washed in the recesses of that rifle. And there's lots of details on that rifle. So just be very gentle with it. Take your time here, because we're going to add in the camo aspect of this baby poo camo scheme. So to get the green that's so iconic on this particular FN FAL for the Rhodesians, I'm going to be using German uniform, and it looks something like this. It's pretty hard to make out in the actual picture, but it was of a middle stone colour and a green going across. Now it's up to you if you want to go with what I'm doing, like a sort of tiger stripe across the body of the rifle. Some reference photos I've seen, they've just gone with blobs, but I think having the stripes going across looks a little bit better for this scale. I think blobs would just not look as nice. And you can tell that I'm adding this in now without actually washing the whole rifle with the camo scheme on there, because I don't want that green. I want it to look like it's faded in, not just fresh on. For the boots, whilst all that's dry, I'm using German camo medium brown and beige at a 1:1 ratio, just to highlight those boots and the various areas of the boots. The straps going across the top of them, the laces, you can see the front of the boot, and as well as the sides, etc, etc. Lots and lots of details on these guys, so try and capture them if you can. And then grey-green for the very top of that water bottle, so we're using it as a highlight. Even though we painted it in the colour, the black wash darkens it enough that we can use the original colour as a highlight. With that done, we can then go ahead and hit the magazine with London Grey. So I painted the magazine in basalt grey, gave it a wash, went over it in basalt grey, and then highlighted it with London Grey just to make it stand out. Again, you could paint the magazine in the camo, the baby poo colour if you want to. It was obviously up to the individuals. And then just to finish off, I get my wash and I just do a pin wash. So a pin wash being of like an accurate wash, a detailed wash on that FN FAL. So I'm picking out all the little recesses where I want this wash, just to cover up some of those bits of camouflage paint, that green paint that's gone in those recesses. And then with all of that done, we're pretty much finished, guys. You just have to paint the skin and that. But I've got a 28mm video on how to do all of that if you want to see that. So there we are, guys. That is it. That's how I paint my Rhodesian figures so far. Now, let me know below if you want to see how I paint the Rhodesian African rifles, bearing in mind they're going to be exactly the same as what you've seen today, minus just a couple of additional details. And obviously the skin tone is going to be different, so I can do a whole video on that with the skin tone included. However, I'm going to be doing a skin tone video for this Bush War series anyway, covering a few different shades of that African skin tone. So it's really up to you. If you want to see it, I'm happy to do it. I might make it just like a Wednesday or Thursday video, and not make it the prime Saturday video. But let me know below, and let me know if you're going to be invested in this Bush War series. I really want to see if this Bush War series is going to kick off. If it's not as popular, then I might reduce the amount of videos I make. If it's a popular series, then yeah, we'll definitely keep doing it. But I've loved painting these Rhodesian figures, and what a way to start this series. A massive thank you goes out to Nick for sending me these figures. Again, I've been having my eyes on this way before I even got into painting miniatures on YouTube. So yeah, chuffed to have them on the channel. And another huge thank you goes out to my Patreons and YouTube channel members. You guys are absolutely awesome, and a special mention goes out to my Panzer Aces. That's Oscar, Patrick, Panzer Jim, James, and Colin. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for that additional support. If you want to join their ranks, you can join for as little as $1 a month, and you get access to a few different perks and all of that fun stuff. You can join on Patreon or YouTube. Alright guys, that's enough of me rambling. You're probably fed up with it by now. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to leave it here and I will catch you at the next one.